This is my Range Rover L322 TD V8, which I recently purchased for £900, and on my way home it broke down. No surprises there really. And today I have shoehorned it into my garage, as you can see, and I am going to fix one of the major issues. I am dailying this car at the moment, and it's not ideal that I have to fill up the coolant each and every time before I set off for the journey. So what I plan to do today is take off the manifold, as I believe the leak to be in the V of the engine, which through my research of trying to remove the manifold and do this task, seems like it is quite a pain of a job to do. So with my limited mechanical skills, I'm going to give it a go here at my home garage. So if you haven't already, make sure you go back and watch not only my collection video of this car where I break down a number of times, but also my previous video where I underline all the faults that are wrong with this car. So what I'm going to be doing today, like I said in the intro, is I have to attempt to get the manifold off, because underneath there is what I believe to be leaking, which is the thermostat housing. It is quite a common issue on these 3.6 V8s that the thermostat housing will kind of split and break. I've also got a couple of elbow pipes whilst I'm in there, just in case. I feel like if I'm going to the extensive labour of removing the manifold, I may as well replace a few other bits in there. I'm hoping that those bits are at fault. This is certainly what the previous owner told me. Well, he told me the leak was coming from the V of the engine. So for a bit of research, I was kind of able to narrow it down to the thermostat housing and a couple of pipes, but this is pretty much empty now. And yeah, but on a side note, how good does it look in my garage? I've allowed myself plenty of space at the front and this side to work on the car, but obviously it is poking out of the garage ever so slightly, and it's not the warmest of days today, which isn't ideal. But if this becomes a pig of a job, worst case scenario is I can put it in neutral and attempt to push it all the way in. So without further ado, let's start stripping down this engine. Right, I interrupt this time lapse to, if you're going to attempt this, this isn't really a how-to video, it's more kind of, I'm trying to be entertaining, but this side, on each bank of the engine is a metal plate, and you need to remove them because the harness goes right down there and connects into the injector. So on the right-hand side of the engine, I managed to get it off, which was very easy as there's a lot more access. Now on this side, it is a lot harder. There's a bolt here and a bolt there, and then there is a tiny, which I've put there, covered in oil, 10mm bolt, and it's in this general area. So when you're pulling on it and you can't figure out where the bolt is, it's down there. Right, let's get this off, and then hopefully I can unplug all the connectors, of which there are many, and then maybe start to unbolt the manifold. I believe there's 2 bolts here, 2 bolts there, 2 bolts here, 2 bolts there. There may be kind of 6 on each side, I can't quite remember, but I'll have to dig in. And I've got to say, having the suspension fault on the Range Rover, not allowing me to put it in access mode is a bit of a challenge for my short legs. So I have had to resort to the step ladder just to get in the engine bay. A really cool thing I have just discovered, which I probably should have done at the start, was put the bonnet into service mode. As you can see, it's almost vertical, because the issue I'm finding is, despite having 16 spotlights in my garage, because of the bonnet, I wasn't able to see any of these connectors down here, and it was becoming a bit of a struggle, like climbing into the engine bay with just my phone torch. It's not really ideal. I have a torch somewhere else, it's dead, and then I have another one, but I can't find it. So this is just honestly the best solution. So now I can see clear as day what I need to undo. So this is actually going to help me loads. I wish I'd just done it at the start. That wasn't too bad actually. I started this job at around 10 to 11. It's now 10 to 1 and I have the manifold off the Range Rover. As you can see, it's quite a weird looking manifold really. If you kind of compare it to the one on my Audi R8, you'd think, well, I just assume manifolds look like that, but this one is quite funky looking. And here is the engine without it, which looks worse than it is. And I've got to say, I haven't just kind of dived into this and had a go. There is a really helpful kind of step-by-step guide on the L322 forum that someone's made. It's literally got like 100 photos, so that is incredibly helpful. What I struggled on, like I mentioned, was the bolts down there, and then one of these connectors right down there. I couldn't seem to kind of pull this tab back and pull it at the same time. It was a bit of a ball ache, but it is off. So now that that is off, we can look at what I suspect to be the culprit. So if we look at this elbow there, that looks like a split, although I think it has gone all the way, it must have done. So maybe under pressure that leaked. So I have actually got 2 of these spare, just in case I got to this stage of the process and it was at fault. But also if we look at the back of the thermostat housing, where is it? There. You can just see it looks a little bit wet to me on the bottom plate. So, thankfully, I took a risk and I've ordered a new thermostat housing and some new elbows. So, I have absolutely no idea how to get that out, to be fair, but if that is at fault, which it looks like it is, that's definitely going to get changed. But I think even if it wasn't at fault, as a preventative measure, going this hard and this much labour intensified into this job, I would have changed it anyway. And it is good as well to know that the previous owner has blanked off the EGR valves. So that's cool. Right, let's, I suppose let's carry on, try and get that out, try and figure it out, and replace those elbows, and fingers crossed that will be the solution to my coolant leak. Finally, Jesus Christ. After a lot of disassembly, faffing around, and a lot of breaks, finally got the thermostat housing out. Now, I did manage to break this because it is quite brittle. When I'm trying to get these pipes off, and I've got the screwdriver, and as you can see, it's kind of chewed it up a bit, but it just shows like this thing was really on its last legs. Even, it's pretty much near impossible to get this out without snapping this bottom bit. Every forum I've read, everyone snaps that, and it is quite a mission to get it up and out. I was swinging off it, and in the end I just went and grabbed a crowbar, managed to get it up, but then these pipes and this connector, it's just awful really to get out. But I am so grateful that I've managed to get it out. I didn't actually think I'd make it this far, and you can kind of see now that it is out, that this kind of seam along the top is wet. So I suspect it was coming from there as well as one of the elbows, but the underside is also broken. So maybe it was already split there and leaking out of there as well, but that's definitely broken as a result of getting it out. So this is what it looks like without the thermostat housing. As you can see, it is very, very wet, obviously, because it's leaked out of all the pipes. There's the bit I've snapped off in there, so I need to try and get that out. But I don't know, it's not been a difficult task, it's just been more time consuming. These things I did have to remove. One goes along there, and then that one I've just managed to unbolt and get out of the way, but they go there. They essentially cover these 2 pipes. Now the left side is a lot harder with access, because essentially this section here bolts onto that bit down there. Now on the left side of the engine, that bottom one is completely you have to do it blind. You cannot see for the life of you. And then there's 4 bolts holding that on. This side's a bit easier because that same piece is sideways, which makes access a little bit better. As you can see, I just managed to push it out of the way rather than kind of remove it like I have done there. But I'm so grateful that this is getting there slowly but surely. I just pray to God that this fixes the leak. So after around 5 minutes of hammering and chiseling, this piece, which snapped off into that brown hole, is finally out. What I managed to do is kind of split it with a screwdriver and a hammer, and then I was able to work my way around it to pry it out. But that piece is supposed to be attached to there. So obviously leaving it out, it's a very old part, it's gone brittle, it snapped clean off and stayed in there, but wasn't too difficult. Now what I'm going to actually do next is kind of sand down the internal kind of diameter of that hole, ready for the new part to go in. Just check the pipes for any bits of broken plastic, and we should be good to go. Here is the new piece, and as you can see, that's what it's supposed to look like. And it's looking very, very clean and fresh indeed. So get that in, reinstall these things, and then start the assembly process. And I've been on it for a few hours because it's now 18 minutes past 4, but we're getting through it and we're getting there. Guys, it is now 10 to 10 at night. I didn't film a lot because my GoPro, which is up there, decided to die. But if I had filmed, it would have just been simply an episode of Ben Gets Tourette's, because Jesus Christ. The frustrating thing is, the job isn't hard. Like getting the thermostat out was tricky, but when there's simple things that take 4 hours, like the those elbows I replaced, they simply just would not go on. 90-degree elbow, I was really just struggling. All I needed to do was move it about 15 mil to get it seated properly, and it just was not having it. I ended up putting them in a bowl of hot water, getting them to like kind of flex up a bit, and then with a bit of brute force and a lot of swearing, I managed to get them on. But the car is loosely back together because I want to just start it up and get it out of here and see if it holds coolant. So it's missing a few bits over there, but I believe I have plugged everything in and it should be good to go. Now, what I mean earlier about a pipe taking a 4 hour, like being a 4 hour job, it should be something like this. You would expect to collect a pipe and just go, done, tighten that up, took 2 seconds. But no, when the pipe is like sat there and you're swinging off it and then it's got one of these stupid clips on it, it was just an absolute nightmare. So I'm going to tighten that up, put some fresh coolant in it, hopefully start it, hopefully it runs. Hopefully I haven't forgot to plug anything in this spider's web in. Another thing worth mentioning, when I was reconnecting these hose lines, quite a few had snapped where they push into, so I've kind of cut the ends off and then tidied it up and put it back in. So that's a future problem, but I think we're all good for today. Got tools lying absolutely everywhere, and I'm not talking about the tool that's decided to work on this car. These spare bolts are for the guards that go either side of the engine, which I cannot be asked to put on. Speaking of can't be asked to put on, I forgot to put this on. Where's this go? You know what, it's not important. Not today. Oh shit. I'm not entirely sure on what the bleed procedure is with this. Not sure if it will self bleed. I'm going to fill it up to the top for when it sucks in coolant. Please start. Well, it started. I guess the annoying thing is the thermostat housing is so buried, it's going to be quite hard to see if there are any further leaks. I suppose the biggest kind of telltale sign is if this will hold any water. So guys, you join me around a week later, and I have to say I'm so pleased that this job is over. As you probably could tell by the rest of this video, prior to this part, this was a pain in the arse job to do. But thankfully, I have bled the system and it looks like my coolant is staying at the correct level. I've been keeping my eye on this for the past week or so whilst I've been daily in the car, and I haven't noticed any leaks or anything like that. So that is one of many jobs ticked off the list for this cheap Range Rover. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please make sure you subscribe so you do not miss out on any of my future DIY projects with this car, which, trust me, there are many. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up as well. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.